evening. First to the bizarre courtroom drama involving Port Adelaide legend Warren Tredrea.
He's lost a final desperate bid to stave off bankruptcy, and a deadline to pay his former employer, Channel 9, almost $150,000 has now passed.
From premiership captain and media personality to looming bankrupt.
How disappointed? Very disappointed outcome.
Warren Tredrea represented himself today, arguing his former employer, Channel 9, was acting unlawfully when it served him with a bankruptcy notice via email rather than in person.
Yeah, I don't dispute that I owe the money.
What do you dispute?
I disputed how it was served.
But the federal court registrar disagreed.
You didn't do your homework though, didn't you, Warren? You didn't do your homework. You should have known that was lawful.
Tredrea stood at the bar table with a pile of papers, nervously shuffling them around to advance his argument, but looked utterly rattled when told that serving a bankruptcy notice via email is within the rules.
The 2004 premiership captain lost a long-running unfair dismissal case against the station over his refusal to be vaccinated for COVID. He sought more than $6 million in lost wages. This morning, Tredrea asked for more time to pay the almost $150,000 he owes to the station, plus the costs of today's hearing. He told the registrar, the ability to pay for more costs is almost impossible. Tredrea's post-football career has been rocked by controversy. He was sensationally axed from the club's board for anti-Semitic comments made by a guest on his podcast. The deadline for his legal bill to Channel 9 was 4 p.m. today. Deanna Williams, 7 News.
The opening of a trial of a woman accused of killing and dismembering her partner has heard she hated him more than anyone. Hannah Ford joins us live from the Supreme Court. And Hannah, the murdered man's torso was discovered in a wheelie bin.
That's right, Will. And today, for the first time, we heard more about the alleged motive in this horrific crime. Jeffrey McLean's remains were discovered in the wheelie bin at Salisbury South back in August 2022. Cherie Glastonbury and Mark Murphy are accused of his murder, while Murphy's brother Peter and his partner Lynette Sexton are charged with assisting an offender. Today, prosecution told the jury that the relationship between Ms Glastonbury and Mr McLean was tumultuous, marred by alleged violence, and that Cherie Glastonbury had told her sister in a series of texts that he was a disgusting pig, a lazy alcoholic deadbeat, saying, "I'm going to strike back to try and live and I'll go to jail. Why can't he just die?" The court heard there was a series of violent attacks on Jeffrey McLean allegedly carried out by Mark Murphy, but after those attacks, a quieter method was chosen, the prosecution alleging he died of a deliberate drug overdose. Rosanna.
All right, thank you, Hannah. There's been a dramatic end to a wild pursuit in the western suburbs. Police started chasing the driver when he did a burnout right in front of them before it came to a crashing end at Hendon.
Unlicensed and unregistered, a 33-year-old man comes to grief on Tapleys Hill Road.
No respect for anybody, even himself, so very lucky boy.
With debris scattered across the road, the driver makes a run for it. Mechanic Marek Matuza hears the commotion and rushes over. Police not far behind.
He was probably 1 second away from being hit by a truck and he would have been dead.
The Woodville Park man had just led officers on a chase through the back streets. They began chasing him after he did a burnout in front of them. The pursuit ending in the crash just after 4:30 yesterday afternoon.
They didn't provide assistance to the other car that got hit, so I actually felt sorry for the tradie fan who got hit because he's probably without a car today and trying to have to do work.
After fleeing the scene, the man attempted to hide on De Havilland Avenue, but police quickly caught up and took him into custody. He's been charged with a string of offences including possessing drugs and will face court next month. Mitchell Sariovsky, 7 News.
Labor is on the brink of a landslide victory at next month's state election, with new polling showing One Nation surging past the Liberals. Today, the spotlight was on health, as the government promised more round-the-clock pharmacies if re-elected.
In the knife-edge seat of Colton, Peter Malinauskas launched a charm offensive on mums and their bubs.
As a mum, there's never enough hours in a day.
Promising to spend $13.2 million to build 3 more 24/7 pharmacies in the Hills, western and northeastern suburbs.
We will have these 3 additional 24/7 pharmacies opened up within 12 months of the election, should we be successful at the ballot box.
If the latest Fox and Hedgehog poll is anything to go by, the government's on the verge of a landslide. Labor could almost win next month's election on primary votes alone, with One Nation overtaking the Libs. Once preferences are distributed, Labor would romp home, the Libs facing the prospect of being reduced to just 3 seats, but the Premier isn't popping the champagne.
From my perspective, they are largely a distraction.
Peter Malinauskas remains the preferred Premier, leaving Ashton Hearn struggling to convince voters she's a credible alternative.
I think I've been pretty clear that, we've got a mountain to climb.
In just 66 days as leader, Ms Hearn has already surpassed the approval ratings of her predecessor, Vincent Tarzia. Whether that will be enough to save seats remains to be seen.
I'm focused on making sure that we've got an affordable South Australia, making sure we've got a better health system and also getting on top of crime.
Michaela Kamarik, 7 News.
The coroners started an inquest into the drowning deaths of 8 men in South Australian waters, all within a year of each other. Not one of them was found wearing a life jacket, and that's prompted a plea from Water Police.
For Water Operations Sergeant Neil Innes, a coroner's court witness box is far from his usual office. But here he is today demonstrating life jackets that meet Australian guidelines.
They have a collar that is designed to right you if you fall unconscious.
An inquest is being held into the drowning deaths of 8 men within a year of each other. Paul and Thomas Eckert and Alan Bottrell at Buffalo Reef in March 2024, David Neve and Rodney Ingram at Cape Cassini that August, Peter Martin at Anxious Bay that November, and Victor Kent and Roger Walker at Beachport last January. Not one of them was found wearing a life jacket.
It will buy you time. Life jackets buy you time. They help your chances of survival.
In SA, those on boats under 4.8 metres long need to have a life jacket on. Those on boats between 4.8 and 12 metres in length don't, except for in situations of heightened risk.
For instance, if you're operating a boat solo or at night.
The coroner will now determine whether he thinks current laws around wearing life jackets are sufficient or if recommendations need to be made to change them.
Most incidences occur in seconds. If you're not wearing the life jacket, it's normally too late.
Amendments could include increasing the length of boats that life jackets do need to be worn on to 6 metres to capture the majority of recreational fishers. Lauren Rose, 7 News.
Police have determined that bones found at a property in the state's mid-north last year are not human. They were unearthed by an investigative journalist looking for the remains of Joanne Ratcliffe and Kirsty Gordon, who went missing from Adelaide Oval in 1973. The bones were given to police for forensic testing.
Police are defending their actions after a protest against the Israeli president's visit turned violent in Sydney's CBD. Dozens of people were arrested. Some were beaten, shoved and pepper sprayed. The Palestine Action Group has described it as a sickening state of violence.
Some of those police officers were emboldened, were supercharged, had violence in their blood and their minds, and they pursued people.
The New South Wales Police were put in an impossible position.
We wanted a respectful and responsible protest. That's not what we got last night.
All up, 27 protesters were taken into custody. At least 10 of them are accused of assaulting officers.
Susan Lee is holding on to her job, but only just, surviving today's Liberal Party room meeting without a leadership spill. But as Angus Taylor times his tilt, a former Liberal Prime Minister has unleashed on his old party, saying they've strayed into la-la land.
In the same courtyard where he launched his own leadership challenge in 2015.
It was over there, actually.
Malcolm Turnbull says he came to talk hydropower, not power struggles. but shared his views anyway.
If Angus wants to be leader of the Liberal Party, he should stand up and say so, and say why.
Liberals expect Angus Taylor to do that before the end of the week. Mr Turnbull warning whatever happens, the party must return to the centre-right.
And if you run off into La La Land, which is where they've headed, then you find yourself running second to Pauline Hanson.
Malcolm Turnbull.
From the man now running with Pauline Hanson and with no love lost after being dumped as Deputy Prime Minister under Malcolm Turnbull's so-called bonk ban.
I remember a certain gentleman talking about, that you shouldn't be a bitter ghost. I don't know. The only thing he's missing down there in the courtyard is a sheet over his head.
With only estimates on this week, most senators aren't even in Canberra, which means Angus Taylor would need to declare his hand in the next 48 hours to give Liberals enough time to be here for a spill on Friday. In the Liberal Party room today, moderate Jane Hume asked Susan Lee how she planned to avoid electoral oblivion. Miss Lee replying, "Stop talking about ourselves. Disunity is death." The Treasurer making light of Angus Taylor's dilemma.
Half of the party room supports the member for Hume, and the other half have met him, Mr Speaker.
And all are now waiting for him to make his move. Mark Riley, 7 News.
The former Prince Andrew is tonight accused of leaking confidential British government information to his criminal friend Jeffrey Epstein.
The King has now declared Buckingham Palace will work with a potential police investigation into his brother as the ex-Duke's apparent actions plunge the monarchy into a deeper crisis.
For the second time in 4 days, revelations from the Epstein files overshadow royal duties.
Charles, how long have you known about Andrew and Epstein?
The heckler answered not only by boos, but later an extraordinary statement from Buckingham Palace about former Prince Andrew, expressing the King's profound concern at allegations which continue to come to light and the palace's willingness to stand ready to support police.
It's unprecedented, and I think that this is a seminal moment in the royal family's dealing with this scandal.
A criminal investigation into Epstein's alleged trafficking of women to Andrew and his conduct as UK trade envoy appearing increasingly likely, after new emails revealed he leaked reports on Asian countries to Jeffrey Epstein, as well as a confidential brief on Afghan investment opportunities. The saga following Prince William on his own diplomatic trip to Saudi Arabia, a spokesperson expressing he and Princess Kate are deeply concerned by the continuing revelations. No such statements from Ghislaine Maxwell today, the convicted trafficker refusing to answer questions in the US before a behind-closed-doors deposition. As extraordinary as a police investigation into a former prince would be, extraditing Andrew to America to testify would be something else entirely. Despite that, it remains the desire not only of Epstein's victims, but many powerful people inside Congress.
I think this is the most vulnerable the British monarchy has ever been.
In London, Ben Downey, 7 News.